Welcome, welcome back to SpeakPact. We have an industry veteran with us today. I'm super excited to share the insights that she's going to bring to the table. Get your pens out. Get ready for a heck of a ride. We've got Jackie Lapin in the room.
Thank you, Antoniette. I'm so glad to be here.
Well, Jackie, you've been in this industry for several decades. I'll let you give a little bit of your background here in a moment, but I've been familiar with your company, Speakertunity, for several years now. It is an invaluable resource. We'll get to a little bit more about that later on in the show, but you really have a unique space in the marketplace and absolutely some unique and very vital, right, crucial tidbits for emerging speakers and those speakers who have made it, but really want to elevate and scale to that next level. So first and foremost, what brought you into this industry all those decades ago?
Well, it actually started when I was 11 years old, when I decided
Wow.
I wanted to be a sports writer. There were no women sports writers. And I was at the Detroit Free Press at 20, at the Associated Press and the front pages of the LA Times at 21, and at the Washington Post and co-hosting Dodger Dugout at 22. I went on to have one of the two largest sports special events cable TV PR agencies in America for 20 years. And I had a client list that included Toyota Motorsports and National Hockey League and the Golf Channel and Showtime and Top Rank Boxing and Ice Capades and Harlem Globetrotters. That go on and on and on. It was a really world-class client list.
Nice. For real quick, did you mention the Dodgers?
Yes, I
Was
was the
that in
co-host of Dodger Dugout. And
No. Okay, well, that was our team growing up. My favorite memories are going to the Dodgers games with my dad. But that was in Anaheim. Are they still in Anaheim?
no, that was the
Anyhow,
Angels. The Angels are in Anaheim. The Dodgers were in LA. But
then
yeah,
yes, LA Dodgers. Well, I just remember some of my greatest memories growing up were in there. So maybe you were in the dugout and I didn't even know it.
not quite yet. That wasn't until later. Um, but yeah, so that was sports was my passion for a long time. But then the industry started to change, and it wasn't much fun anymore. And the big agencies were coming in and chomping all the clients away. So I had written two books in personal growth, and one of them was the best spiritual book of the year at the International New Age Trade Show. When I got done with that, I realized that my heart lay with the people who were making the world a better place, people who were changing lives through their words in one shape or another. So I rebranded my company, Conscious Media Relations, and began doing radio podcast tours. And that's something we continue to do today, where we offer leaders and experts and authors to 9,000 podcasts and radio shows with a minimum guarantee of 30 interviews. So about 5 years into that, some of my clients came to me and said, "Can you book me for speaking gigs?" I said, "I don't want to do that, but I know where they are. So why don't I just tell you?" And so that's how the first Speakertunity product was born. Initially, it was just for the transformational leaders that I was working with. Later, as we grew, it became for business leaders and new thought leaders and just about everybody. But in the very beginning, we created one specific tip sheet for that community, and then we continued to grow our product resources from there.
What year did you found or launch Speakertunity?
Well, let's see, what's this? I would say about 2014, something like that.
Okay. All right.
It's been about 10
So
years.
what is the best bang for an emerging speaker's buck? Meaning, and even established speakers who really want to take their career to the next level. There's so many places we can focus. We can focus on corporations, conferences, seminars, podcasts. There's just you even have TEDx resources. There's so many different areas that we could focus on that we could get kind of watered down and spread out. Where, if you can give just some insights to where's the lowest hanging fruit to really start getting your voice out there and your brand built.
So, for somebody who's just really starting out, podcasts are a great way to get started. The barrier to entry is relatively low. You have more than 2 million podcasts out there to choose from, and you're going to find some right in your niche. The next one is virtual summits, provided you have a decent list that you can participate in collaboration. In other words, you're going to send to your list as well as other people sending to their list, which is going to grow your opt-in list and give you a showcase to present what you do and in your programs and your books and all of those other kinds of things. So those two are the low-hanging fruit. From a standpoint of getting on stages, you want to look at local events, local meetings, things that happen on a regular basis. Now, let me give you one piece of advice. If you're intimidated and you're not ready yet to make that leap, when you go and you give a podcast host 20 questions that you want to be asked, that should be your roadmap to your signature speech. So by the time you've delivered it 20, 30, 40 times on a podcast, it is going to be way easier for you to get on stage and deliver that. I did that. I did 100 interviews after my last book. And as a result, by the time I hit the stage, I knew my sound bites. I was confident in what I was saying. I knew what came next. So it's a great way to prepare yourself for starting to get on local stages. And local, we're talking chambers of commerce, women's business meetings, business networking meetings, special, the kinds of meetings that are people are aligned, like health and wellness support groups and parenting groups, and wherever your avatar, your client meets, find a local group and start working there and work out the kinks, make sure your offer works. If you're going to speak to sell, as opposed, or as I call, speak to enroll, as opposed to getting paid to get on stages. And speak to enrolling, the one thing that I would say about speaking to enroll is that there are way more opportunities to speak to enroll than there are to get paid. And as a result, if you are just starting out speaking to enroll, and by the way, you can make more money doing that if your offer is right, than you can with a fixed amount of money you get paid on a paid stage. So I encourage you to build the repertoire so that you can speak on a stage that doesn't let you sell and only let you give a free gift, something that gets them to enroll in your opt-in list. Have a speak to sell opportunity so you can take advantage of all those. And then lastly, be able to speak to a paid audience, a keynoter. So if you have all three of those in your arsenal, you're going to be speaking in a lot of places.
Yeah, I love your path. I love that you brought this up because so often newer speakers, especially maybe the less seasoned ones, right? They may have spent an entire lifetime as a lead executive or just a real expert, maybe a doctor practitioner, somebody who's really an expert in their field, ready to get their curated knowledge out to the public. I think that a lot of times, because they're high achievers, they just believe I'm going to put my name out there and I'm going to get keynotes. But there really is a journey, and it's an important journey. And I love what you said about the truth behind the monetization of speaking. So I do want to dive into that next. But first, to recap, if I'm understanding you, which it's really in line with what I believe as well. You start with podcasts, right? Especially targeted. Where else are you going to find people who are tuning in to actually listen to what it is that you have to offer? And they go there because they're looking for your information. It's not a shot in the dark like marketing or even being on a talk show. You really don't know who is going to be listening. But when it comes to podcasts, people tune in because they want that information on that subject matter. And last that I checked, it's 3.3 something million podcasts to date.
Mm.
That's a lot of opportunity. And obviously there's ways to see how that podcast ranks. But if you're in a niche market, even if it's not a high ranking podcast, you're still in front of the people who are most likely to take that next step with you. So such important. So the pathway that you gave was podcast to virtual, which is a lot of fun, and you've got lists for that. And then local, and then maybe associations, organizations, and then kind of those bigger keynotes. So sometimes you're just going to get lucky and one of those comes earlier, but it's a it's a it's a definable path that is is proven over and over. You don't have to redesign that. It works, and it works every time.
We call it the
Um,
speaker's journey.
the speaker's journey. So what I love, you know, that I'm a speaker agent, so it might seem like I'm actually um, talking against myself. But what I have found is those speakers that really make it, that for the longevity and to those, to that bigger impact and bigger revenue, they do lock arms with agents or bureaus, but they're out there putting in their own elbow grease every single day as well. They're not just sitting back waiting for that call, right?
Yes.
Talk to me, Jackie, about that. So we know all of those places you'll get impact. You're going to reach the people who need to hear what it is, the solutions that you have for them, right? The tactics, the the tools, the strategies. That impact is going to get out there. For a speaker to be a long running speaker and have longevity in their field, on the revenue side, they also need to be doing well. And you mentioned this, and I would like to dive a little bit deeper into this. I agree with you 100% that that fixed host check, even if it's a 10, 15, $20,000 check, that's going to be your lowest pay for the day, right? Your lowest pay for that opportunity, really where your bigger income and revenue is going to come from are the people who discover you in those audiences and follow you beyond that one talk, right? That one new client can become 50,000, 75,000, 100,000, you know, the lifetime journey that you have with that one person. And I do notice, especially with newer speakers, they're really short-sighted on that keynote check. Can you speak a little bit? Can we go a little bit deeper into that?
So let's look at the numbers. Let's say that you have a $2,000 program and you know that you can convert 30% of the audience. And let's say that you know there are 300 people in an opportunity that you're going to be speaking at. So you know that you can convert 100 people. Times that 100 people times that 2,000. You see how much more money you could make if
Yes.
if you have the right offer in the right audience with the largest. And you don't have to have an audience of 100. I remember hearing a friend of mine, Doug Vermeeren, who's a major speaker, talk to me about the fact that he presented at a meeting that was, I think, 20,000 people. And the next day, and when it went to present to a room of 30 people, he made way more money in that room of 30 people than he did to that cavernous audience because it was the
Yes.
right audience with the right offer. So, it doesn't mean you have to be in front of a room full of 100, 200, 300, 5,000 people. It can be a small audience if it's the right audience. But the numbers themselves, if you know how much you can convert, and that's more of an experienced speaker, you've already done this a few times and you know with regularity what you can. And that also presents another issue. And that is a fourth kind of speaking that we really haven't talked about, which is pay to play. Because there are opportunities to pay to get on a stage. And a leader expert is putting on an event and they say, come pay me $5,000 to speak on my stage. Now, the only reason you would do that is if you know how much you can convert, you know how big the audience is, and you know you're going to make way more money than that $5,000 you're going to invest. I know some people say, I'll never pay to get on a stage. But for the right people, it's the right switch. I know people who only do pay to play because that's where they know where their money's coming from. So
Yes.
you have to be in the right stage in your career and be an expert at speaking to enroll in order to do that.
I've seen you actually practice exactly what you're preaching right now, where you have if it was some conference that I was at, or maybe even a virtual event that I was at, where you I happen to know the host, and that you have to pay a good amount of dollars to be on that particular show. And we've had conversations about how well that does for you. That you're It's pretty priceless to get in front of, number one, to get in front of your right fit people, and number two, to be endorsed by the host that those people already know, like, and trust, or else they wouldn't be there. So powerful. I know there's certain stages I would pay a lot of money to be on, knowing that those, having the bigger vision, right? Understanding the bigger picture, that just five new clients in that audience more than pays for that.
Right.
And then the opportunities that stem from that is just invaluable. You said something that is so spot on, Jackie, and that is the ability to connect with smaller audiences. It's always going to be more difficult to really grab the hearts and connect in a massive room. You can do it, and there's definite ways and strategies to do that with a good guide to help you get to that place. But it's just going to naturally be easier to make stronger connections in smaller rooms, and really taking a next step with you. A talk is just the first step in a journey. I love that you call it a speaker's journey. To go on to a journey with you, people really need to believe that you understand them and you have the solutions that they're looking for. It's a lot easier to do that in a smaller room. Really quick short story on that, because I loved your story. So last July, I spoke in Florida at what was supposed to be a really huge conference, and the organizers did everything right except get people there. Like, it was an amazing event, but it was supposed to have 8,500 people there. None of us saw a lanyard that didn't say sponsor, exhibitor, or speaker. I don't know where the people were. So instead of talking in front of thousands, I spoke in front of 10 people, three of which were my own speakers. So basically, seven people. Um, I walked away from that event, from the audience checks, because it was an unpaid event with regards to the host check, with $33,000 and some really